Alright, lads, so it's finally time for us to update our Brave Battle tier list, this time updating it for the year 2023. The last time we updated this tier list was around 6 or so months ago, and since then, we've made some pretty major changes. Those changes include adding more SP characters to the tier list because they are now meta in my opinion. We've gotten rid of a lot of characters that I quite frankly just don't think it's even worth talking about. And we've also changed the way I rank some of these ranged NAD characters. So in the comments below, let me know how you feel about this. Do you prefer to have a tier list that just includes a bunch of random characters that quite frankly you're not going to include? Or do you want me to even make it less characters so we can more so highlight closely what characters are really worth bringing and who really is the best? Because what you will see here, at least in this particular tier list, is that, yeah, all these characters at the top are SS tier. But if I was to only include characters from S and SS tier, in the future, for example, we can actually have a closer look and rank these characters in different tiers on how they actually perform in the current meta. So let me know how you like to feel about it. Do you prefer less characters, which might represent the character's value in the meta? Or do you prefer just to have a bunch of characters on a tier list? Because I just thought it was getting a bit too much. We were including characters like 1000 Year Blood War Sergeant in D tier that I just don't think is even worth talking about, nor are they worth using, nor can you rarely ever pull him in the first place. So let me know where you'd like to stand on that. But with that said, let's have a look at our tier list. So in this case, we have B tier. Now, B tier is mainly going to include normal attack damage characters that are pretty good. You know, some recent ones, for example, like Soifon, Rukia, Shinji, Jutaro, and also Kisuke. But the thing is with these characters and a few others in this particular list is that they are lacking damage reduction. One thing you will notice, especially on most of these characters here, unless you are an SP character, is that they come with built-in damage reduction, so therefore they take less damage. And that's very important. It's the main reason why basically besides 6th Anniversary Aizen, every character in SS tier is a NAD character with built-in damage reduction. Some have 60%, some have 20%. So when you give me a character like Soifon, despite actually having a somewhat appropriate killer, that being no affiliation, that could be good against someone like Yuha, for example. She is a character without DR, so she is taking significantly more damage. And that can be said for multiple characters in this list, like Soifon, Rukia, Shinji, Kisuke, and also Jutaro. And at the same time, it's also important to understand that the characters in SST, you will notice a trend. They're all melee characters. Now, the way the AI works in Brave Battles, melee characters are simply better. They get up close and personal. With the fact they have poison and a high normal attack damage output, they're able to kill their opponent quite quickly. With ranged characters, if someone gets up close and personal, even if they have poise, which negates stagger effect by the way, they waste time flash stepping away and at the same time start breaking up the lanes. They get close to your teammate and then that means the enemy can then potentially hit 2 people with 1 hit. So personally for me, I choose to avoid bringing ranged characters unless you're an SP character, because at that point, if you're bringing an SP character in this meta, you're there to let off all 3 strong attacks and then die. But a character like Jutaro, sure, you can get away with using them, but there's just significantly better options. And that's basically what beta is. You have NAD characters without DR, and then you have some old Brave Battle characters like Broken and also the Yamamoto, Yuha, for example, the old versions. They have damage reduction and it's a positive, but at the same time, they're lacking on the damage output. But moving into A tier, these are some of the better characters in my opinion. Most of these characters here have damage reductions, so they can be quite tanky, and at the same time also have a pretty good damage output. Misaki is kind of in the case of Jutaro, but she has a more appropriate killer. Against Yuha, no affiliation. Gin and also Okura are NAD characters, unfortunately, without DR, so again, I wouldn't really want to bring them. And they are also ranged, but they do have a good killer, that being Captain. In fact, this Okura actually has a Espada killer, so we're actually going to move him down, probably to around here. Not really that relevant. But yeah, overall, A tier is just characters you want to bring if they're there just to fill out the team. But I do want to quickly talk about these 4 characters in A tier because they're the ones that I think stand out the most. Aizen is a NAD character with a very high chance to inflict weakening when he's attacking a speed character. So ideally with Aizen, you kind of want to use them against a speed character, and mainly the only speed character you're going to come across in this current meta, besides this Tsukishima, but Tsukishima is invincible to damage for 10 seconds, is mainly this Sergeant. So Aizen does make for a decent character against him if he can actually inflict the weakening. Swimsuit Momo might be a very weird choice, but the reason why I included her is because personally I have been on the receiving end of a well-built Momo. She does have no affiliation killer, and she can potentially make quick work of a Yuha Baha. In a 1v1 situation, and they're both on the same Transcendence level, Yuha will win, but she is a potential option, and I know people do actually use her to counter Yuhas, but it does require a bit of Transcendent investment. Our next character is 4th Anniversary Full Hollow, who might be receiving a resurrection sometime this year, potentially for the 8th Anniversary. Now in his case, he was designed to counter 1000 Year Blood War Yachi Unohana. And with the most recent resurrection, making Unohana a actually pretty good Brave Battle character, this kind of potentially gives you more reason to take out this particular Full Hollow Ichigo. He's designed to only go against captains, and the captains are still meta, so you can get a use out of him, but I think he's missing 1 or 2 more skills to make him a really good S tier Brave Battle character, and hopefully the Resurrection potentially this year can actually do that. And then the Fierce Battle Byakuya, he's kind of like a worse version of Oko. In this case, he has a 50% chance to dodge against Soripas. Again, a lot of Soripas and also captains in the current meta, so you can make a use out of him, but he is lacking DR, so ideally you do want to invest in his Transcendence quite a bit. But moving on to S tier, let's have a look at some of these characters. So firstly, Ikkaku. Ikkaku's there just to mainly be a tank character. He is a team booster, so you can make a use out of him. Noritora is going to be an Espada character with Captain Killer, so he does have an appropriate killer, does have a decent damage output, and can also paralyze. Most characters in this meta don't have paralysis immunity, so that could be quite good, but he is definitely lacking when compared to some of the SS tier characters. Then we have Ichibei. Now, Ichibei is basically just a Noritora counter. That's essentially about it. He can make for a good third spot on your team, because he does have, again, some decent damage output, some decent survivability and tankiness to him. And he was great, literally the best Brave Battle character on his release. But unless you're seeing Noritoras running around, which you don't really see that often, Ichibei kind of has less value in my opinion. But the way he was designed, he's still definitely good enough to be used. And then we come to the SP section. We have Bruno, Spirits Off Air with You Beyond Bankai Toshiro, 7th Anniversary Uryu, 1000 Year Blood War Ichigo, and also 7th Anniversary Ichigo. These characters are your SP characters. A lot of them all have very fast activating strong attacks. Most of them have the appropriate killer save for who they want to go against. And the idea of when it comes to using an SP character in this current meta is that they are good if they have more investment into them. Some Brave Battle teams can be quite tanky, especially if they have, again, more Transcendence invested into those particular characters. So ideally, you only want to use these if you invest in them, right? The whole point of an SP character is to use all your strong attacks as fast as possible within the first, 5 seconds of a game. And the idea is that those strong attacks need to kill the opponent they're up against. If you put them on the side, ideally, they can take down the middle lane and also the lane they're up against and essentially make the game a 3v1. Most of the newly released Brave Battle characters right now don't have immunity, so it does allow SP characters like this to be used. However, if they use all their strong attacks and the enemy is still alive, then they really didn't do the best job. But these SP characters are some of the better ones that you definitely can put a use in your Brave Battle team, and the more dupes of them you have, the better they're going to take down their opponent. SD Okura is a character that I didn't think I was going to put this high, but he actually performs quite well. Now, he's probably going to be the highest NAD character in this list that doesn't have DR and also is a range character, so again, he's kind of like crossing off the two things I don't like about a character. But in his case, he is an Espada. Most characters don't have killer against him. He does have Captain Killer, and he also does provide the team with a debuff effect. And the debuff can actually be quite good. It can negate the effect of a boost on the enemy team, and that can put you at the stat advantage. So if you're able to use him correctly, mainly just to counteract the boost on the enemy team, he can be quite a decent character. Chad, potentially going to get a resurrection sometime next month, maybe the month after. He's just a very solid NAD character. No one really has killer against him. A lot of people in Brave Battles right now have him like 5-5 and build him really tanky. And the fact that he is a human character allows him to be a very tanky character. But at the same time, this particular Chad also does have Captain Killer. So because of that, he is still relevant in this meta even like 5-4 years later. Next up, though, we have some higher tier SP characters, those that I also try to avoid with my particular team, and that is 1000 Year Blood War Yamamoto, surprisingly the Arena Okiura, 1000 Year Blood War Round 14 Ichigo, and also Spirits Arthur with Yukenpachi. These characters just have more appropriate killers. In this case, if Yama can inflict weakening or burn, he's going to get the SP boost, it's going to allow him to do a lot of damage. But at the same time, he actually makes for a decent 6th Anniversary Aizen counter because he does have a 50% chance to dodge hollows. There's a lot of Aizens running around in Brave Battles, and if you use a Yama, there's a good chance Yama's going to win that fight. Okura has Soripa Killer, and also has a 50% chance to dodge against Soripas, so that makes him quite good against the Captain meta. Ichigo, Team Booster, fast activating strong attacks, has Soripa and Captain Killer, and also is good against Aizen. So in this case, as an SP character, if you can actually give him enough damage, he can make quick work of any captain in this current meta. And the same can be said for Kenpachi. In this case, he has a Soripa Killer, but he also does have poise as well. So because of that, he doesn't stagger, and he's going to instantly let off his strong attacks until he's basically dead. He does have a very high damage output, and usually if you position him on the left or right side of the map, when he lets off that first strong attack, when he has 40% more damage at full stamina, that allows him to be a very hard-hitting SP character. Coincidentally, next up we have another Power Kenpachi. In this case, I just think he's really good with the amount of technique characters in this current meta. Makes quick work of one of the better Brave Battle characters, that being Kurashiki. So he's actually held up quite well in my opinion. And then after that, we have our big Ichigo. In this case, he is a Soriba and also no affiliation killer. I know a lot of people use Arpic to go against characters like Yuha since he does have a killer effect against him. And with the Soriba killer, it allows him to do a tad bit more damage to those captains in this current meta. A lot of people do have him max transcended, so that's why you do see him quite often. So if you have no like SS tier character, but you do have a well-built art like Ichigo, you can definitely put him to work and he will be a pretty promising SP character in this current Brave Battle meta. And then lastly, finally building it up, the final character in S tier, and that is 1000 Year Blood War Yachi Unohana. Her most recent resurrection gave her the ability to go through invincibility, and in my opinion, that's actually really good. While it's true, unfortunately she is a captain character, and there's still a lot of characters in this meta that have captain killer, and make quick work of this Yachiru, she does have a niche, and that is to go against characters like Drugrim, characters like Tsukishima, and also mainly Yamamoto. Recently, and we're talking literally yesterday, she got a pretty decent buff, and that is the fact that the Bond version of Orihime now got resurrected. Her resurrection is 20% DR and also 55% weakened duration. So ideally, if you are someone that is using Yachi Unohana in Brave Battles, again, you do want to have dupes of her because she is quite an old character. As a bonus ability, you can give her 55% weakened duration, and with the Orihime link, she is now immune to weakening. And again, you want to put her against characters like Yamamoto, like Drugrim, and both of them can inflict weakening. Previously, if she went against those characters and they inflicted the weakening, it was basically GG's for Yachiru. But now in this case, if you build her correctly and you had that particular link, you can give her a better fighting chance. And again, if you have dupes into her, there's a good chance she is going to win. But now let's talk about the SS tier, the main characters you want to have in your Brave Battle team. Firstly, starting off with Tsukishima. Invincible for 10 seconds, a team booster, weakened defense on his Soul Bomb, overall just a very solid character. He's actually gotten better in the most recent months, mainly due to the fact that the release of 1000 Year Blood War Chad is a NAD character that doesn't go for invincibility, and since he is a power character, Tsukishima is actually a good counter to go against Chads. You do see Chad quite often in Brave Battles, so because of that, I think Tsukishima's actually aged quite well here, and at the same time, Tsukishima does actually counter someone like Drugrim, for example. So you could argue for Tsukishima to be better than Drugrim, and that's definitely fair, but I'm leaving Drugrim just a tad bit higher here, because there's more technical characters in this meta, and that allows Drugrim's attribute advantage to shine a bit more. In this case, Drugrim once more invincible for 10 seconds, weakening on every single attack, and also reflects damage back to the opponent. At this point in time, I'd only really recommend bringing Drugrim against any technique characters such as Askin, Oko, and also Kurishiki. Yamamoto, the final and third invincible character, that was an old meta that I'm glad has kind of gone away. In his case, he is basically a counter to go against both Drugrim and also Tsukishima. So if you are using Yamamoto, you can put him against those two, and he's likely going to win those fights unless you have him underbuilt. But he does make quick work of those two characters, and because he himself is invincible, him and the other two characters, Drugrim and Tsukishima, are all three solid choices that go against any SP character. Every character about to talk onwards are characters that are not invincible for the first 10 seconds. So they are prone to taking damage from SP characters and getting wiped out completely. So there's still a place in this meta with these three invincible characters because they can be really good to go against a full SP orientated team. But next up we have Askin, a character that surprisingly is higher than Yamamoto, but I feel like he's actually gotten significantly better over time, mainly due to the fact that he himself is not a captain. Very rarely does anyone in this meta have killer against him, and while it's true at the same time Askin doesn't have the appropriate killer himself, he has a squad 0 killer, which right now is only against Ichiban. You very rarely see Ichiban in this meta. Personally, I think Askin is mainly there for the disruption. His SA2 is a debuff effect, and we talked about it earlier with Kisuke, and I believe also Baragon has it. But Askin is a Brave Battle character, so he comes with the effect of having poise, built-in damage reduction, a good damage output, and if you use this character correctly, you can get rid again of the buff effects from characters like Tsukishima, Chad, and also mainly Yuha. If you don't know, a boost increases your attack, focus, defense by 33%. If you have an enhanced boost, which Chad and also Yuha has, that's a 43% attack, focus, defense, and that's quite big. That's a lot of extra stats. But if Askin uses the debuff after that boost goes off, it lowers their attack, focus, and defense by 33% and gets rid of the boost. So he definitely is a good character with that in mind if you use him correctly. And again, personally, I've been using him in my team quite a lot, and he is quite successful. I do have dupes into him, and that definitely does help. But at the same time, he's also a technique character, and he does perform quite good against the newest Brave Battle character in the game, Sergeant. But do be wary, Chad does have attribute and killer against him, so ideally you kind of want to avoid Chads. maybe put Asuka on the other side of the team, and you'll be just fine. Oko is our next character to talk about. We did showcase him recently. The best way to look at Oko is that he is a SS tier character. Previously, he was in S tier, but I think with the way the meta's gone right now, he definitely deserves the SS tier treatment. He only wants to be put against captains. If you put him against a captain, golden. He is amazing. If you put him against a non-captain, well then Oko is going to be like S or A tier, right? That's the best way to look at him. He only wants to be put against captains, and that isn't something hard to ask for when majority of the teams you are going to be going against is potentially going to include 2 or 1 captain characters. But for those that missed that initial showcase that we did do a couple of days ago, essentially he has a captain killer, he has a 50% chance to dodge captain's attacks, and if he does dodge an attack, he reflects damage back to them, and at the same time he also has Brave Battle counter, so when you do damage to him, you also reflect damage back. So when you put him against a captain, there's a good chance he's not even going to get under 50% stamina, and every time a captain hits him, whether they actually hit him or miss because he dodged, they are going to be taking damage. The main important thing to know about Oko is that every character here, besides Aizen, is a limited character. Getting them and getting dupes to them is going to be kind of tough, but Oko is premium. Eventually, you will pull him, and you will eventually get dupes of him. I myself have pulled him 3 times from tickets since its release back in early 2022. So I think Oko is a great investment, especially because captains don't appear to be getting out of the meta anytime soon, and someone definitely worth looking into. Next up, we have Chad. Chad is one of the rare Brave Battle characters to have 2 killers, in this case Captain and also Sternritter, and the main killer you want to look at is his Captain killer effect. That's the main one, but at the same time, the Sternritter killer effect could be setting up for some time in the future, but again, it is good in the meta right now because you do see occasional Askins running around. But Chad is just a character that actually does a lot of damage on his Nad string. Since he's a power character with Captain killer, he makes quick work of any technique character, especially someone like Kiyoshiki, for example. However, keep in mind, as already mentioned, he is a somewhat recent Brave Battle character that for some reason wasn't given the ability to go through invincibility. So that therefore means he is prone to be attacked by someone like this Yamamoto, Jukum, and also Tsukishima. And sure, that technically makes him a bit worse than he could have been, but I like it. It made these 3 characters have more value in this meta, so personally, I really can't complain about it. But that is also, keep in mind, the reason why I have lowered him compared to these 5 characters, because, again, besides Aizen, they can go through invincibility. Next up, though, we have Kenpachi, Flurry +2, prevents last-ditch survival, overall just a very solid Brave Battle character. Really good to go against Yamamoto, that's what he was mainly designed for, to counter this Yamamoto. But again, with Yachu's running around in Brave Battles right now, he's also really good against her. But at the same time, with Yachi Unohana running around in Brave Battles, he is also really good to go against her. Sergeant is the most recent Brave Battle character, and in his case, he's actually a very solid character. Now keep in mind, he is another Brave Battle character with 2 killers. In this case, no affiliation killer, and also human killer. And that is great because this means he's designed to counter the 2 most recent Brave Battle characters, 1000 Year Blood War Chad, and also 1000 Year Blood War Yuha Baha. They are some of the more common characters, especially Yuha, since he is again the best Brave Battle character in the game. So Sergeant having killer against them 2, at the same time though, keep in mind they have killer against him, and having Adjuvant against Chad, it does allow him to be a pretty good character. And at the same time, for the first 10 seconds in the Brave Battle match, he has Flurry +3. This allows him to hit quite hard. He can paralyze and also lacerate. What I really like about Sergeant is that he has really high damage for the first 10 seconds, and after those 10 seconds, he does lose a bit of damage, still having Flurry +2 and a 20% bruiser, which is great, but it's not Flurry +3, right? And in a way, it was basically the opposite of what Yuha is. Yuha gets stronger as the game goes on, but Sergeant is the best right from the get-go within those first 10 seconds. So ideally, you want to use Sergeant to counter Chad and also Yuha, and that's what he's there to do. He's only, in my opinion, good against those 2 characters, and while it's technically unfortunate he can only be used against those 2 characters, again, they are some of the more common characters in this game mode, so it isn't really a bad thing. Kuryoshiki, a character that I think has actually aged quite well here. He was designed to counter Kenpachi. He himself has Captain Killer. Keep in mind, he is also a captain, and since he is a technique character with the Captain Killer, he's also a very good counter to go against Sergeant, for example. But other than that, with a high damage output that gets more damage under 50%, and when you do get under half stamina, you take 50% less damage, you can also burn to be quite tanky. With Ignore Invincibility, Ignore Last Ditch, he's definitely someone that's worth having on your team. Then we go to 6th Anniversary Aizen, who originally in our last tier was at the bottom of SS tier, but I think at this point he just deserves to be the 2nd best character in this particular game game mode. Aizen is a cheat code in my opinion. I've been using him in my team, and he basically just does all the work. With every addition of a new Brave Battle character that isn't invincible, it makes Aizen better. At the same time, most recent additions in the Brave Battle meta have all been captains, and Aizen has Soriba and Captain Killer. And that's basically why he is SS tier. You know, he's very similar to the sense of other characters in S tier, SP characters for example, but the thing is, his killers are just more appropriate, he does more damage, and the most important part about his kit is that SA2. I didn't mention it with the other SP characters, but they can have a problem with using all their strong attacks and wasting it while an enemy potentially has last-ditch survival. So that means they're gonna revive and potentially just one-shot your SP character. With Aizen, because he has a Vortex SA2, he's gonna place that Vortex, kill the opponent he's going against, and if they do have last-ditch, well, they're just gonna revive and die straight away because they're standing in the Vortex of 6th Anniversary Aizen. Aizen is an amazing SP character, and someone I'd actually recommend trying to get 2 copies 5 out of 5 if you can do that, or in general just having 2 copies, because I have one built for Brave Battles, one built for PvE content, and for my Brave Battle version, I've given him Pierce Barrier because I really think he needs it, because he needs to do damage right from the get-go, and I don't regret it. He was worth the double the investment because he just makes quick work of every Brave Battle character in this meta, with the exception of Tsukishima, Jurugum, and also Yamamoto, because they are invincible characters. And even though he doesn't have killer against Yuha, because of how much damage Aizen can do, he can even take down well-built Yuha Bahas. But speaking of Yuha, I still think he is the best Brave Battle character in this game mode. While it's true he now does have an official counter, Sajin, it doesn't make Yuha any less needed. It doesn't make Yuha any less needed in my opinion. He is a character that I think every team should have. The reason why he is great is because he is a no affiliation character. Besides Sajin, no one really has killer against him, and with a Captain Killer, he's basically countering the entire meta. With Ignore Last Ditch, Ignore Invincibility, and every time a teammate or opponent dies, he gets 20% null attack damage. With Flurry +2 already built into this character, the longer the game goes on, if your teammate dies or your opponent dies, this character is getting even better. So if it comes to a situation where it's a 1v1 and Yuha's last alive, he is going to be doing ridiculous amounts of damage. He also has paralysis, which is great. You can easily change the tide of a game if you can inflict paralysis. And just like Chad, I'm not sure I did mention it for Chad, he also is a team booster. In this case, Chad and also Yuha have the booster skill, so they increase your attack, focus, and defense by 43%. And that is just crazy. Most teams don't have an R-skin, so you don't have to worry about that boost getting countered. And that's also one of the main reasons why I did have Tsukishima lower than Juken, for example, and some of these other boost characters, like the speed version of Chad, they're still good, but keep in mind with the way this boost SA2 does work, if Tsukishima uses his boost after Yuha's, you're not getting the 43% attack, you're only getting the 33% attack. So ideally, at least for me, I don't like to use 2 boosts in the same team because it can mess with Yuha's boost, the 43% attack, focus, and defense boost. Unless you're using the Power Chad, who also does have the booster skill, I wouldn't recommend using another boost character with this particular Yuha. But Yuha is still great, and even though 2 Brave Battle characters have come out since his release, and even though one is designed to specifically counter Yuha, Yuha still holds the #1 title in Brave Battles. Amazing character that, in my opinion, if you're trying to play Brave Battles in the higher ranks, you want to have at least one Yuha. And you know what? I'm all for it. As you can see here in beta, we have the Mind Yuha who came out, was very disappointing. It was such a cool, monumental moment that they added Yuha Baha into the game, but he was mediocre on release. And while it was a tad bit disappointing, this Yuha was another Brave Battle character. Over time, I've grown to actually like the idea of it. He deserved this redemption in the Brave Battle meta. He's still holding it down. And overall, lads, that is our Brave Battle tier list. So I probably went on a bit too long, but again, I really like Brave Battles early game mode right now. It's definitely worth playing. 30 Extreme Cup, which happens every month, is worth pushing into. The rewards for Brave Battles have gotten better. You can get around 125 orbs a month easily by sitting in 30 or above. At the same time, the meta is super friendly for the most part. You know, compare it to like 2 years ago when it was invincible teams. It was ridiculous, it was annoying, but now you can really experiment with any character. As I mentioned, with the introduction to all these non-invincible characters, SP characters, which is something that not really anyone used for many years, are now finally able to be used. So I've been enjoying using characters like 6th Anniversary Aizen. And with characters like Sergeant coming out, it's making my R-skin better. Oko is actually fun to go against the Captain meta. There's a lot of different team compositions you can use. So I recommend you guys to experiment. And again, as always, choose your opponents carefully. Do not pick a team that you know you're gonna lose to. Play it safe, and you can have a much easier time at playing the Brave Battle game modes. With that said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Take care, and peace.